Thanks very much. Preeti, let me also invite on stage our guests for this very interesting panel. Shrikant Velakani, co-founder of Fractal, R. Chandrasekhar, former president of NASSCOM, former secretary of IT in the Union government, and Deep Mukherjee, partner and director, risk and management and data science at the Boston Consulting Group. Please welcome. A healthcare company, and a very successful and good one at that, involved in a session on artificial intelligence. So that tells you how important artificial intelligence is. And on this panel, we have a policymaker who spent 40 years guiding and being involved in multiple areas of policy, including information technology, and then leading the companies themselves. So he's had a very interesting career, and then a consultant and a practitioner of AI. I'll come to you, Rentala Chandrasekhar, first for that one key question. Where does India stand in the AI race? Have we lost it permanently? Is there scope to catch up? Is there a moment like 1999 that awaits the industry and our country?
Well, I think it's fair to say that we have a reasonable base to grow from. There's no doubt that the US and China are way ahead of us. We have not had so many successes in terms of producing technology, producing products. And I say this with the full knowledge that Shrikant here is an exception.
Yes.
So there are exceptions, but I'm talking at a broader level. If you look at the numbers, then there are, barring a few exceptions, we have not been great at that. The second is that in terms of creating new technology also, there have been, like foundational technologies and LLMs and so on. The government has recognized some of these gaps and come up with an AI mission which has 7 pillars. But I think our forte as a country, as an industry, has been on the application of these technologies and provision of services. And I do believe that AI offers also a tremendous opportunity to create that covering of combining AI to provide services that are badly needed across sectors in the country. So we are not talking just about the technology sector. We are talking about areas where we badly need improved services, affordable services, scalable services, personalized services, say in the social sector, healthcare, education, agriculture, and so on. And it turns out that apart from business and manufacturing impact, AI can actually make a tremendous difference there, but it requires a very different and a concerted strategy, not just of businesses, but the government as well, at a sectoral level, in terms of how do we combine AI to do what the country needs.
So multiple points to follow up in that, and there is one, this question of why it has happened, why we haven't done what others have. And the second point is about being good at applications. But I want to come to take that question to you first, Shrikant. You are an exception, but I want industry point of view. That the fear, according to the common man, really is that unlike 1999, the IT boom or the telecom boom, there was not really a regime of technology denial that happened at that time. But in the current AI cycle, we are seeing technology denial, trade tiffs around chips, also a part of it. And that sort of leads to the fear that can India's development as a potential AI power be impacted by that, unlike what happened in 1999 and therefore. So your take on that fundamental point.
Yeah. See, India has a 1.4 billion population. We must never forget the advantages of that, which means that we are the largest user base for any product or service in the world, because China is mostly dark for many of these services. So this is the reason why OpenAI or Google and Perplexity, everyone wants to target the Indian market, is because they feel like India has enormous users, which has a lot of network effects for them, number one. Number two, India has the best talent in the world in terms of AI. 1 in 3, maybe 1 in 4 people in the world of AI is an Indian person, either living in India or not living in India. So that's also an advantage. 3, we are writing research papers in AI as much as anybody else. We're number 3 in the world in terms of research papers. Even if you look at high quality research papers, we are number 3 in the world in terms of writing those papers. 4, we are producing enormous amounts of data. The digital exhaust of India is a quarter of the world's digital exhaust. Right? Everything, every time you buy something or do something or click something, there's a digital trail that's being produced. That digital trail is a massive massive data set, which again can be used to build models, including in different languages. So we have an opportunity to take all of that and build something amazing. Right now what's happening is we're just becoming the use case capital of the world, which means that let's not do anything interesting in research, let's just become a use case capital. I would push back and say India has the talent. If we provide the right patient capital, we may be 3 years behind US and China, but we can catch up very, very quickly.
Are we just 3 years behind?
I think so. Not even 3 years, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. The capital required is very high, though. The India AI mission is 1.3 billion in size, and 1.3 billion is probably what OpenAI just spent yesterday or something like that, right? So it's low.
Yeah. That's a fundamental reality, that even though in Indian rupees the capex outlay may be pretty significant, but when it comes to ChatGPT and others, it's just pocket change. Now the consultant, you heard a policymaker and you heard a practitioner, and the question I have for you therefore is there still hope for India to be a significant power in the world of AI?
Absolutely. I don't think there is any doubt on that. Obviously, we have to do several things, travel the distance, but the game is still very, very wide open. If I just take the example of the GPT that has been developed in US, I mean, one can say it is relatively speaking lacking in mathematical elegance, and it is not very efficient. So when China developed DeepSeek, a Chinese company, it was actually more efficient. So the journey has just started. You can almost visualize it. In the 1940s, cars had a mileage of 4 kilometers per liter. And today we have improved. So the AI journey is just starting. The technology is itself evolving at a very rapid pace. The game is still wide open. We have to, and I agree with Sridhar that you would have to possibly move away from just being the use case capital to do something more foundational. But I think the government is taking initiatives on right, developing foundational models. So the game is very wide open.
Yes.
I think we are actually a talent-rich and a data-rich country. And I think being 3 years behind in AI is a very long distance. So we not only have to cover those 3 years, but we have to do it twice as fast so that we ultimately catch up. And for that, I think if we combine the talent with the data which was talked about, then that gap can be covered.
So the flip to that, Mr. Chandrasekhar, could be a question that are these companies therefore just using India and Indians and the massive amounts, humongous amounts of data that we generate to just train their data sets?
Of course, that's happening without question.
And should we be worried about that? Should policy respond faster? You made the point, 1.3
I think
or $4 billion.
This is the kind of decision we have made over the years, right? We are the second largest base for every major tech company in the world, whether it's Google or it's LinkedIn or it's Microsoft, any service.
WhatsApp, social media apps,
yes.
ChatGPT now.
Yes.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, go ahead, please.
So I was saying that, look, we have made the decision to be an open economy that invites this. And in return, we get to do lots of things for the rest of the world. This is the way India has decided to conduct itself. Now, can this fundamentally change? I think.
But is it the right way? I want you to be as honest as is possible for you.
I think it is the right way, because this tech world is an open ecosystem. Yes, there are some changes now, and there are some anti-globalization waves that are happening. But I think globalization is the right way forward. If you take a long-term view of the world, this is the way the world should work, not like how China and US.
Allow me, before you come in, sir. Just day before yesterday, 62,000 odd crore on a massive shipbuilding program. Just 12, 13,000 crore on AI. Does the government have its priorities right in terms of the capex focus? There are billions that have been spent on roads and we all welcome it. But in the context of AI, it's just a...
Yeah, I think here we have to be very clear about the distinction between private capital and public capital funding AI and driving AI. And I do agree with what Srikanth said, that openness is a virtue by itself in the field of AI because it creates a different kind of energy in innovation.
In a Trumpian world also, is openness still a virtue?
Well, you know, the point is that when you have the talent and the data here, all of this is not independent of the context, you know, and I think that it's important to understand the context. That's one of the reasons why AI, which is completely based on foundational technologies and data sets which are not Indian or not of Oriental origin, don't work so well. And we therefore need to fill some of these gaps. So whether it is in terms of infrastructure, whether it is in terms of opening the data sets, and I think these are some of the things that the AI mission is trying to address.
As a former policy maker, is enough being done? I don't mean to decry the efforts that have been put in. That's good, but is that enough?
No, there's no question that much more is needed. There is no question that, this needs to be multiplied. But I think what is important is to recognize the role of private entrepreneurship in driving this. And I think at the end of the day, it's a three-legged race, and investment will have to keep increasing, but it will have to keep step with the progress that's being made.
Deep, come in on this.
So I think the digital private infrastructure that Indian government has developed, I think it's exemplary. I don't think there is any comparison to anywhere in the world to what the Indian government has developed. I think a lot depends on how private industry is actually using AI, and you know, I think this government has possibly done its bit. It will continue to do it, but I think we cannot, for things like pure technology, beyond a point, we cannot bank or cannot put the whole burden on government.
But from a private sector point of view, Deep, we don't produce the chips, and these are not ordinary chips. In terms of the power guzzling, dimension, that's also a significant question, although we have done phenomenally well on power now in the recent past. But if you look at the foundational technologies, where do we stand in the value chain?
So here is the thing. See, foundational models, they would be more on unstructured data, language, so on and so forth, and India is taking strides on that. But if I for the purpose, remove from the ambit the foundational models and the energy guzzling and computation intensity, if I look at traditional AI that is used in improving productivity, redesigning products, there's a lot can be done, and that is not constrained by availability of chips. I mean,
but Deep, the people of India are already voting, and they're endorsing your point. They're not waiting for government intervention. They are not waiting for a Swadeshi AI model. ChatGPT has the highest number of users in India. And what does that tell you? And a lot of them are women. There's just data that's come out literally hours ago. So they're not waiting for either a phenomenal company like here or for a policy intervention. They're already ahead of the curve of the government of India as well. Go ahead.
No, so I think one is the pure consumer usage, right? And the consumer usage will, how we are using those facilities to improve the productivity or doing new things, that's very, very critical. If me and you exchange WhatsApp all throughout the day, it will not impact the GDP. But if I am using the capability that is there to redesign my business, redesign my product, reach out to more customers or serve my existing customers, that's what will going to change, move the needle on economic productivity. We are thinking on pure consumption use cases, which are sort of discretionary economic activity. But unless that is converted into actual economic activity and business, and people are doing that.
May I just, if I had the privilege of making all these decisions unilaterally, let's say for India, this is what I would do. Number one, India has done an exceedingly good job of building physical infrastructure over the last many years, like just roads and so on. Second thing, like Deep also has pointed out, we've done a really good job of building the next layer, which is the digital public infrastructure. So what should we do next? The next layer is to build the intelligence layer on top of the physical and digital infrastructure, which is where all these AI models come in. So we, let's say, expand the program AI mission By the way, India spent 1,500 crores. I think budget announcement was 1,500 crores the previous year. It went to 10,000 crores. Hopefully, it will go to 20 and 40. We are experimenting, learning from it, and hopefully scaling up significantly. So I would, over the next couple of years, dramatically scale up this investment on creating the intelligence layer on physical and digital infrastructure. And next, what I would do is I'd pick a few problems like education. It's a huge problem in India. If you think of the future of our country, it depends on high quality education. Bring AI to personalize education to every citizen of the country, number one. And two, bring AI to deliver better healthcare to every citizen of our country. If we did these two, and last point I would do is create the conditions for entrepreneurs to build all other businesses. You build a physical infrastructure layer, a digital infrastructure layer, an intelligence layer, and now make it easy for entrepreneurs to think of ideas and create amazing use cases for the country. Then we have that Amrit Kal, the 2047, it's really going to happen with this plan.
Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Yeah, I think that, what we have to recognize is, if you take the example of telecom, for example, the technologies were not unique. India didn't create new technologies. But look at the kind of way in which the whole telecom revolution happened. Look at the spin-off effects, the multiplier effects in the economy. So the point is that we already have certain very important elements of the digital infrastructure in place, which Srikanth has outlined. We can build on top of that and create a different model, because India is not, at least I don't think that the model which has worked in the West is going to be the exact model in India, just as it was not in the case of telecom. In China, there is also a lot of emphasis on usage, apart from the technology story which we have discussed. But it's a very state-centric model. In India, it needs to be more of a citizen-centric or a consumer-centric model because of the nature of the economy.
Let me follow this up with that other big debate that's dominating the headlines. The curbs on H-1B visas now coming into effect next year. Just overnight, we now have a tariff curb on pharma sector. So if you take a broader overview of India's knowledge economy, the 4 or 5 sectors in the last 30 years which have given jobs to millions of Indians within India and overseas, gradually they're all being squeezed. So the broader question is that a very large IT company does a massive buyback, and people are asking questions that you have so much money to buy back shares, but you have not developed a single product. Forget a LLM, not even a small language model. Is there something fundamentally different, a problem with India's IT success story? For almost 4 decades, these companies have had very good margins. Do they face a moment of reckoning, Mr. Chandrasekhar?
Well, I think that the regime of technology denial and visa denial is upon us. Whether we like it or not, this is what is happening. There are, of course, debates on whether it will hurt us more or the US more, but that's a different story. I think it's not that, I would agree with you that especially the large Indian companies should perhaps focus a little more on exploiting the Indian market. And,
So you have led NASSCOM, so that's why I ask you, why haven't they done that?
Let me just add something, because there is a current vice chairman of NASSCOM and a former president, so you have 2 of us as captives here. But I think the point is that there are Indian companies which are working on in this area. TCS itself, for example, has a massive program for grassroots healthcare, which initially started as digital healthcare, but now the AI is being added into that. Now, through that, if we have sectoral focused AI technologies and products emerging, that's how we will reach the top. I feel that the pathway for us is to leverage the domestic market and the domestic data and the domestic needs to build both the technology and the products that will leapfrog.
Srikanth, will India have its own DeepSeek moment, if not in the same manner, where the AI compute intensity, time, cost was all reduced, but will we have that? Should we at least hope for that?
I think so. So India AI mission announced a 10,000 crore mission. They picked a few companies. Fractal is one of them. We're building a large reasoning model for India, and we hope that by the time we release the model, we will match and exceed the global benchmarks on reasoning at that time. So there will be, if not Fractal, there will be other players who will come in. There's a saying that not 1,000 horses can stop an idea whose time has come. That time this is India's time. There's no doubt.
I want to ask you, because when a lot of people that we get to meet overseas, and they say that the environment for research and product-led thought doesn't really exist in India to the extent that it does in the US. Is that true? Do you agree with that?
I disagree. See, I think the one legitimate pushback against Indian IT services is that what fraction of your revenue are you spending on R&D? It's less than 1%. It should be maybe much more. Google and Microsoft are spending 14% of revenue on R&D. Palantir is spending 14% of revenue on R&D. So we would want our Indian tech services companies to spend a much larger share of their revenue on R&D. It's low right now. That's one pushback. But having said that, the other things, for example, the narrative around these tech services companies is different from the reality. They're actually doing amazingly innovative work in a number of different places, except that as a share of the revenue, it's not very high. And therefore, it doesn't feature in the discussion. Only you think of them only in the context of H-1B denial. But H-1B is less than 1%.
You know, without taking names, Srikanth, I have done quarter se quarter tak conversations with IT companies. And when I ask them this question about AI, it's just about there. So, but we can continue with this. Let's also come to you, Deep. In terms of our strengths, we don't have so many things, but we don't want to end this session on a pessimistic note. What do you think we have that will work for us as long as priorities come together? And just for the benefit of the audience, because there's a massive new fiscal sort of giveaway for women that has been announced in the state of Bihar. We were just doing some rough calculations yesterday. All the Mahila welfare programs, direct cash transfers, is far higher than the total annual railways budget already. So just keep that in mind. But coming to you, what do we have that will work for us, Deep?
Fair enough. So I think there is a new breed of, I would say, startups which are actually heavily into deep tech. I mean, and they are not at that scale to go into IPO, but the number of deep tech startups in India possibly is way more than we ever had. And they are not often discussed. We often discuss consumer-focused startups which are making losses, but there are enough and more startups which are doing heavy work on earth observation, aeronautics, biology, biotechnology, and the quality of IP they are producing sitting right here in India is amazing. That's one. India has always been a very, very anti-fragile nation. Our moments of greatness comes when you are pushed to a corner. So 1991, we were pushed to a corner, we bounced back. Now that we see there's a lot of tariff and potential visa issues, possibly this will be an inflection point where...
Is Trump doing us a favor, Mr. Chandrasekhar?
Most likely.
Yes, in a way. However, some of the talent may come to India, some of the talent may go to other countries as well. But the fact is that the Indian diaspora is very well connected with India. And a lot of the startups that you see are actually dual country startups.
Yes.
They have a leg here and they have a leg elsewhere. And diversification of that dual nature is actually going to be helpful.
And there were earlier tax reasons, but there are some reverse flipping cases also. So as we end this, Srikanth, I want to come to you. As Fractal, if you could tell our audience two things. How many of your current engineers or your future plans is where you want to get some of this Indian talent that has gone through a brain drain moment and get them physically into India to do work here in Bharat?
See, Fractal is attracting incredible talent. Like almost 350,000 people apply every year to Fractal, and we hire only...
How many did you say?
350,000.
Okay, 350,000 people.
Of which we hire 1,000 people. So we are a very selective...
So if you thought UPSC was tough...
and a lot of people returning to India as well. So that also happens. I think the bigger point I would like to make is that if India announces a mission to build, match, and exceed global benchmarks in AI, and we say that, look, let's say 10 private companies bring in $100 million each. I'm happy to bring in Fractal's $100 million. And then the government matches it by another, let's say 4:1 or something like that. We have $5 billion war chest. We can go and say, this is India's mission to build global benchmarked AI, and let's invite Indians everywhere in the world to come and work for it. We will attract the best and the brightest, and we will get there in 3 years or 4 years. So that's what I would like to suggest to the government of India.
Deep, quickly, did you want to come in on that?
We should do something like that, and we should not be just limited to AI. We are getting blindsided. There is a huge thing that's emerging called quantum computing. There is a national quantum mission, but It's not about AI, it's about technology. AI is just one bit.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, the last word in the 10 seconds. Is it possible, can we even imagine that the government of India in the next budget or outside of it could just stand up and say 100,000 crore for all these new frontier technologies? Can the balance sheet of the government of India ever do that?
Well, I don't think it's difficult given if a certain level of importance is attached to it. I draw your attention to two important statements that were made by the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, and the IT Minister. And they said, India will lean towards innovation rather than towards regulation. That's important because the US and China have focused on technology creation. Europe has focused on regulation. China has focused on more state-centric stuff. So here I think we have the opportunity to build from the grassroots up and use that to build technologies and the talent from overseas.
Okay, as we end this session, and I thank all my panelists here, Srikanth, one final word to you. When is your public issue coming?
We just filed our DRHP, and hopefully we'll be a listed entities by the end of this year.
All the very best for that, and thanks once again. With that, it's a wrap on this session. Thank you.